All right, next we're going to work on amplitude changes. These work the exact same way as they did with sine. The way you can change your amplitude is by putting a number in front of the trig function, multiplying by a constant. Remember, if that number is negative, it will also flip the trig function over the x-axis. So you can always use your calculator to help you make these graphs if you are unsure. If you can just kind of graph them without their calculator because they follow the same pattern, then feel free. Like for example, cosine without the 2, we just graphed one, starts up, comes down, and back around again. So this is cosine. Okay? But now we just have a 2 in front of it. So all that's going to do, it's going to change this to a 2, keep the zeros at zeros, -2, 0. So it's going to just stretch the graph taller like such. And that is the actual answer to this. But if you don't get that, just always make yourself a table of values. Not a problem. So I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to type 2 cosine 0. And you'll get 2. 2 cosine 90, and you get 0. 2 cosine 180 is -2. 2 cosine 270 is 0. And 2 cosine 360 is 2. And now if we just go plot those points, this was the old cosine, so I don't really need this function anymore. But if you just plot those ordered pairs, you've got 0, 2, 90, 0, 180, -2, 270, 0, 362. Connect them with a nice smooth curve. Remember, they're not V's. And there's your function. The period is still from beginning to end along the x-axis, 360 degrees. Midline has not moved. Amplitude has changed. And that comes from that number there. Domain will never change. It is all real numbers. Range will change. Now the lowest point of the graph is -2. Highest point is +2. And that's because our amplitude changed as well. Second example, it's the same value 2. It's just negative. If you don't, you might just understand it's just going to take this graph and flip it over the x-axis. But if you need to, just type the values in your calculator if you're just not processing that quite yet. -2 cosine 0 is -2. -2 cosine 90 is 0. -2 cosine 180 is 2. -2 cosine of 270 is 0. And -2 cosine 360 is -2. Go to your graph, plot those points. 0 goes with -2, 90. 180 goes with +2, 270 with 0, 360 with -2. Connect them with a nice, smooth curve. They're not V's. They're like almost sort of kind of like little parabolas. Remember, it does keep going. You just don't have to do it, but it does technically keep going. Period, beginning to end, x-axis, 360 degrees. Midline is still on the x-axis, y = 0. Amplitude is still 2. Even though the number is negative, that just flipped it. Amplitude is the distance from the peak to the midline or to the valley. It's still 2 units. Doesn't matter if it's up or down. It's still 2 units. Sorry about that. Domain is all real numbers. Range is -2 to 2. Lowest, highest.